Welcome to the Biz Show, sponsored by InvestQuire. And now, your hosts, Barry and Lisa.
Hi, Barry. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Lisa?
Doing great. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's already the beginning of summer, and it's June, and half the year is over. So our businesses really need to take a look at their numbers, don't they?
You know what? They do. You hear me always say, you need to know what your number is every day, every month, every quarter, and at least twice a year, and then yearly, right? So, but
That's why we send out our reminders to our clientele, right?
exactly. So, welcome to the Biz Show, everybody. This podcast is about elevating the true worth of a business. And I'm sorry, elevating.
Well, you said elevating, but we always want them to elevate, and we can help you with that. But we're
Right.
actually talking about evaluating
Evaluating. Thank you. But we're
evaluating the
we're
true
going
worth.
beyond the financials, right?
So there's not only the numbers that we need to be concerned about when we are going to find the most probable sales price for a business or a business's worth, but there's so many other aspects that go into it.
There is, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about the things other than the financials. However, we're going to just briefly cover the financials real fast, just so that we got basically a cliff notes on those things, right?
Break it down for you.
Yep.
Get to the nitty gritty.
It is. So there's four things on the financials real fast, right? The revenue, the profit margins, the EBITDA, and the cash flow. So the revenue, what's the revenue, Lisa?
So that's all of your income. So when you're going to your CPA and you're like, okay, what did I do for the year and what's going to be my tax liability? That's the top number on the top of your tax return. That's your gross income before any deductions and any write-off and any expenses.
Everything coming in and from all lines of business, right? If you got
All
four
the money.
lines, if you got four lines of businesses, four lines of business, then this is all four of them put together.
All
This
of
is the
them
total net
accumulative.
coming in. Yes. Right.
Right.
The profit margins then are taking out the cost of
Difference.
goods.
Yeah.
Right.
So what did you buy it for and what did you sell it for, right? That's going to be your profit margin.
That's the margin, but that's not your bottom line, right? So then from there, we're going to take a look at EBITDA. What's EBITDA?
EBITDA is the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Right.
So basically it's your cash.
Yeah.
Right?
And
the
then
bottom line, the cash flow.
And then all of that is your cash flow, right? That's what's left over. That's SDE. That is what is left for you to put in your pocket
That's
or
when you
to reinvest
say,
in the business.
yeah, that's when you say, okay, I think I could take a trip to Europe. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. If you like Europe, that's a snapshot into what we look at from the financials, right? But we're not going to. That's all we're going to focus on. That we really want to move on to what else
you can evaluate.
Exactly. So customer base, right? And the market position. Those are two things that we look at.
We want customers, right? Because that's what helps our business grow, having a good customer base and keeping your customers happy and making sure they're loyal to your business.
Well, this is true, and we've said this a few times in the past, but demographics are important, right? Perhaps you can track, the demographics of your customer base, right? Male versus female, age groups, so on and so forth. Maybe you can't. A lot of businesses can't because they just open the doors and people come and go and stuff like that. But
really, when you got to dial in your technology, and then you could definitely do that, and you'll be able to have an intentional way of running your business, right? Because then you'll target that demographic.
Yeah, definitely, because the demographics are important for the fact of marketing, right? So who's your biggest demographic customer coming in? Those are the ones that you want to spend the most dollars marketing to.
You want to design your marketing directly to them.
Yep, exactly. The next one is customer acquisition, right?
What does it cost to get you a client? You have to put money out to make money in.
Well, a lot of that is in marketing, right? And some companies have the luxury of spending 50 cents or $1 to gain a customer. Others, it's going to cost them $100. It just depends on the size of your business and the product that you are selling.
Definitely will vary from industry to industry.
It will. And, we've said this so many times, right? you should know your customer base. And this is part of it. And we're going to drive down into this the best that we can when we're trying to evaluate your business. Um, so we want to make sure, and I've seen some customers who have actually done it manually, right? They have their employees sitting there and they got a spreadsheet or a piece of paper and they're writing, hey, it's a female, she's 50 years old, whatever the case might be.
For
Um,
example, yeah, we have an organic hair salon that we're selling right now, and that customer base would be somebody that is sensitive to hair products, somebody that had maybe health issues and they can't use certain things on their skin and scalp. And so that's definitely a targeted demographic. Consumer.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And there when you're doing your marketing, right? Facebook and Google, they got all those demographics. You talked about in a previous podcast how your cell phone was listening to you, and then a couple of minutes later you got an ad on whatever you were talking about.
Yes. And so that's the algorithms that we could set up for you if you ever need help with the technology portion of your business.
Possibly, absolutely. But just think about this. How much does your cell phone provider know about you? They know everything about you because they got a microphone listening to you every single word you say, even when you're not on a call,
Yeah,
obviously.
so true.
My
My phone actually could read my mind. I don't have to be talking.
God, that's scary.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like it's become a part of my blood, my blood flow in my hand or something. It's my phone and I are definitely integrated in
You
some
know,
way.
I'm going to digress just for a minute because that does bring up a certain point, which is scary.
Hmm.
Um, so our phones and Facebook and Google, all of them are listening, and Apple, right? They're all listening to us. And they're feeding us information based off of what we look
What we
at, what
do,
we
our
click,
lifestyle.
and what we say. And,
Hmm.
and what's really scary to me is I see a lot of people in social media and they lean, politically one direction or politically another direction or on a topic, whatever the case might be. It's not all about politics. But
Right.
but the problem is the social media then takes because you've clicked on this or you've said this and it feeds you more information about that, but then you don't get the other side of the story because they're just leaning you in the direction that you were talking about.
Exactly. That does limit you to other information.
So at a certain point you go in a bubble, and your bubble is this, and that's the thing that scares me about AI and about all this technology is the fact that you're not well informed. You're informed on exactly what one side is that you looked at, but you're not informed on what the other side is.
That's why
And
we have to think for ourselves. We can't become a robot to technology.
I don't know, I watch the news all the time, and I don't think people are thinking for themselves at all anymore.
That's why I don't watch the news.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well,
So anyway, we won't get into politics because that's a
no,
dangerous
and this
subject,
and
and
I
we want to
wasn't
keep
going in.
people happy, right? Let's keep our consumers happy. How do we do
I
that? What
I wasn't
brand
going into
reputation?
politics. I was just talking about the technology. But yeah, so
Yeah,
so well, but no, we got to get back. We got to finish up retention rates, right?
yeah,
So on the customer base, the other thing we look at is the retention rate.
yeah. You keep your customer happy, so they're loyal to you. They're not going to want to go to a competitor or be swayed by maybe even a lower price per se because your customer service is just so top notch and they just love you as a person. You're wanting to create relationships with your clients and keep them loyal to you.
Yeah, exactly. All customers are important, but a customer who's been with you for a few years might have a little bit more clout than a customer that's been with you and just walked or a day or two or just walked in the door.
Right.
And
But the
and you can
new customer
you,
might become a long-term customer, right? And bring you tons of business. So definitely make the new customer want to come back.
well, all customers are important. And,
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. Okay, so now we're talking about brand and intellectual property, right? And brand reputation is so important, and it's a big factor because why?
Because that's going to make your business stand out from the competition. So that's where people are going to go home and talk about their visit to your store or the product that you sold them. And that's your reputation right there, is what people, talk about when they go home, or talk amongst their friends, or actually refer you to somebody. So
Right.
keep reputation, growing and top notch and unique.
Let me throw this out there. If I say the term, just do it, what do you think of?
We always think of Nike.
Yeah, right. So they've done branding really well, and other companies have done it just as well, right? Apple's got theirs, Microsoft's got theirs, Google, or Salesforce, they all got that. And
Yeah, and
and
there's certain brands where you think of quality and you think of, oh, makes you want it and desire it. So
yeah,
you want to definitely be cognizant of that when you are doing your branding, right? You want it to
you
be a
are.
positive branding. So
You know, grocery stores, right? They put all the high-end profit items, margin items, if you will, right in the middle shelf, right? And they put all the stuff that is not that well on the bottom or the very top stuff. They
it's
want
hard
stuff
to
in,
find.
yeah, they put stuff that they want to sell you right in your at eye level.
Well, they're also doing the research on their numbers of what products they're selling. So they want to make it easy and accessible so that they keep selling more and more of it.
Exactly. And they're making good margins on that, so they wouldn't. I mean, let's face it, if I'm in the grocery store and I'm looking at mayonnaise and I see, best foods or great value, which brand am I going to take? Well, I'm probably going to take the best foods if I can afford to take it, right? It's going to be a few cents more, maybe a few dollars more, but it's a better brand, it tastes better, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
I don't
Everybody's
even
got
berry.
yeah.
I don't like mayonnaise. I'm all about Golden's mustard.
Okay, hey, I like that. I like the Dijon mustards and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Yes.
Dijonnaise. There's a combining of the two. Dijonnaise, right?
Oh, hey, I've never, yeah, exactly, exactly. But anyways,
Anyway,
so branding is so important,
and
right?
a part
And
of
so
branding is your intellectual property, which is creating your branding, right?
it is. But we're
Or
going to look into that stuff, right? So as we got the financials, now we're looking at the customer base and all the details of that. Now we're looking at the branding piece. And then, yeah, the intellectual property, right? So the patents, the copyrights, um, other
some businesses
proprietary.
leave out the branding. That's such an important piece. It's just some people leave that out, and it's just too bad. But anyway, I think that's where a marketing degree or marketing person, with that skill and that creativity comes in. Um,
How many customers have you worked with who don't know anything about their customer base, don't know anything about branding, right? They just open their business and they open the front doors expecting customers to walk in.
right. Yep.
And guess what? Unless somebody just happens to be walking by your storefront and sees your doors open, they're probably not going to walk in. And if they don't have a need for your product, yeah, they're not coming. You need to
Yep.
get that word out there. But we diverse. Let's get back on to intellectual property, right? Because that is so important, and that can weigh heavily on your evaluation. Yeah, so intellectual properties, it's so important. It could be very significant in the valuation of your business, right? Because if you got a patent, patents, it depends on the price. I mean, on average, they're about $50,000, but there are patents that are hundreds of millions of dollars or millions of dollars. And then there's patents that are, 50,000 or maybe even less.
Which
If
will
you,
add value to your company, right? That's what we're talking about here. So if you got a
yeah,
$1 million patent, that's definitely going to increase the value of your business.
Yeah, exactly. We have a potential patent coming up that we might be selling, and it's going to be a game changer. I suspect it to be a few $1 million, maybe a little bit more, because it
Yeah,
is
he's
a
doing
game changer in the medical field.
yeah,
And
and he's doing clinical trials right now, right, Barry?
yes, that's my understanding is that they are in clinical trials. So we'll see
So
how that goes.
exciting.
It
Yeah.
is,
Let you
and
know about it once it hits the market. Everybody's
Yeah.
going to be interested in that.
Well, it's a whole different way of doing a medical procedure. And so it can get adopted, and there's some labs involved in making product and things like that. It could it's very convoluted, but it could also be very, very profitable in selling that thing for the person that owns that patent.
Yeah. Everybody's looking for a new way to do things, right?
And
So,
real quick, let's just clarify the difference between a patent and a copyright. Right? Patent is you've designed something or you've made something. Uh, where a copyright is more written material, where you've written a book, you've written a song,
mhm.
whatever the case might be. So those are copyrighted. Where patents are more on products, like your mouse is patented, right? Your desk might be patented, you know. And also one thing we need to mention is there's a difference between patent pending and patent, right? Patent pending doesn't carry as much clout as a patent. If you own all right patent, then that's going to be worth a whole lot more money than if you have a patent pending. Because if you have patent pending, it may or may not go through. And if it doesn't go through, if you infringe on someone else's patent, you may owe them royalties or licensing fees.
Oh, yeah.
So
Uh,
definitely things to consider.
when you're going into looking into getting patents for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think when we are looking at selling a business, we want to make sure that they have systems that will be appealing to a buyer. So if you're looking at a company's operations and they're running smoothly and they have a lot of wonderful systems in place, that's going to increase the value of your business because we don't want to have somebody buy a business and have to create everything and put time, money, and labor into the infrastructure. So definitely operations will
Well
increase the value
said.
of your company.
Well said. Yes, that includes, your supply chain, technology infrastructure, your employee training and productivity and stuff like that, right? If you're looking
After,
at your supply chain, we're going to look at that. And can you get products, or first of all, can your supply chain give you the products you need in a timely manner? And then are giving
oh,
it to you cost effectively?
exactly. Yeah. So you definitely want to focus on the areas that need to be strengthened in your company. If it is an operational system that, you would want to get that all dialed in before you go to sell the business. So yeah, there's definitely going to be weak parts of your company, and those are areas that you could either hire out somebody to improve upon, or we're just trying to make sure that we identify the different aspects of a company that will create higher value. So if you
Yeah,
do go to sell,
exactly. Yeah. Technology, right? All the systems that you have in place to run your business. For instance, your accounting software that you use. If you use a point of sale, what does that point of sale look like? Is it manually? Do you still have an old cash register? You have to clunk the keys and it prints out a paper receipt? Or do
or
you have an
box,
automated one?
or do you have a shoebox with index cards?
Oh, yikes, yikes. Yeah, we had a customer like that, and that is scary.
Well, they
Um,
weren't a customer for very long.
and
Uh,
yes, and then employee productivity, right? Are you training your employees? Do they know what to do? How do they handle situations? How do they work with the customer? And then how efficient are they? Those are all things we take into consideration too. And that's going to bring more value to your company as well.
right. Yeah. You want some good employees in your company so that you know that they're going to be able to um, maintain the profitability of your business.
You know, I've been
So,
in I've been in business and management a very, very long time. And for me, when I'm interviewing people and I'm hiring people, I've always gone under the assumption of when I'm sitting there and interviewing them, I'm as the thoughts are going through my head. Can I actually put this person in charge of my business and walk away for an hour a day and feel comfortable leaving them there to manage the
right.
business? Right.
Yeah.
So the interviewing part is
Is important.
important.
You never know until they're actually in the job, right? Doing their job, and
Right.
then what your customer's response is to that specific employee. I had a guy once that worked for me and, and ended up doing sales and clients were canceling their contracts. And the first time I thought, oh, it was just the client, of course we want them to be happy. So if they wanted to cancel, fine, no problem. But then it happened 2 and 3 times. And I was like, okay, this is not about the client. This is about the employee. And they are actually hurting my business rather than helping it maintain profitability. So I had to let the person go. It was just a bad combination. And maybe the guy was in the wrong field. Who knows what he's doing now? But yeah, definitely want to, like Barry said in previous podcasts, do employee training and have employee morale be a big part of the equation when you're running an efficient company. You want all of those aspects in place.
We have a series of HR's podcast coming up, and we'll go through
Oh,
the interview process and morale and training and stuff like that. And there's a lot of good material in that that
oh
is
yeah,
super important for people to know and understand.
that'll be a fun one.
And I look forward to that, yeah, because I've probably done, I don't know, 45, maybe even 5,000 interviews, 4,500 to 5,000 interviews. And I've hired, thousands of people. And unfortunately, I've also been the hatchet
Oh,
man and I've terminated.
you know what? You just gave me a thought. We should do a podcast on how to do an interview. So many
Yes.
people are, on either the interviewee side or the interviewer side, and they are like, nervous when they have to do one, or they're not sure if they're covering all aspects of, interviewing an applicant. So I think that would be a fun one to do. We could also expand people's way of doing that.
We're wrapping up all of the evaluation and selling your business stuff, and we're getting into that stuff. So maybe that should be our next topics session that we go through is the HR part of it, the interviews and all that stuff. Yeah.
How to hire a good employee. That would be great. Yeah. So look for
Okay.
that, you guys.
Yeah,
So
we'll do
now
that in the next week or so. We'll jump into those maybe.
we have one more topic that we want to cover on how to create a higher value for your business.
And what
And
is it,
that
Lisa? What is it?
be to focus on the industry trends and what is the market doing and the economic conditions so that you are able to target a consumer appropriate for the market, right?
Well, yeah, so there's industrial trends and external factors, right? Those are regulatory changes, market trends, and economic conditions, right? But if you break those down, I mean, we evaluate all that stuff as well. Regulatory changes, right? What are the new regulatories? Well, California had, minimum wage jump from $15 to $20 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
What's the impact of that on your business? Do you know? Some people, I actually talked to a small business owner the other day, and the problem is he is a small business. He's just got one location. So guess what? The minimum wage doesn't affect him,
Right.
but it does affect him because all of his employees left to go to work fast food where they can make $20 an hour instead of $15 an hour. So the state of California actually hurt business in doing that. And they had a new legislation they were just getting ready to pass. It was supposed to go in effect just July, and they backpedaled and pulled it back because of the snafu that happened on that. Now they're trying to figure out how to make this work because it was going to go for healthcare workers and the police officers and firefighters and stuff like that, a minimum wage for them of $25.
Mm. Yeah.
So they pulled that back now, and they're reevaluating because of the instead of being a positive, it turned out to be a negative for business, and it hurt so many people. But so regulatory changes, right? And that's something that you don't have a choice. We look at that, but we also look at the market trends, the shift in the market, right?
Yeah. In their behavior and,
Yeah.
are your customers leaning towards in terms of shopping or price that they're willing to pay?
I will say this. everything has an upward momentum and a downward momentum, right? What goes up must come down. And look at all the businesses that are gone now, right? Or are a skeleton of what they used to be. J.C. Penney's, the Broadway, all these businesses, even Google and the new technology companies, they're laying off a bunch of people, right? AI's changed a lot of that stuff, market trend, right? AI is a new market trend. It's coming for your job, is it? We don't know. It
Mm-hmm.
possibly could.
Right?
What happens when we're all unemployed because AI is doing all the work for us? I guess we need some type of income. How are we going to make that happen? I don't know. I don't have those answers. And, I'm just throwing it out there. And then the economic conditions, right?
Yeah, definitely. We just touched on that. Economic conditions could have an impact on your business. And so you definitely want to have that in the forefront of your mind and keep up on the numbers, whether they're declining or increasing, so that you know how to position your company and be in a preventative nature so that you don't have to close your doors.
Exactly. So if we recap this, we recap of going beyond the financials. Obviously, financials is the big piece of the evaluation, but we're also looking at your customer base, your marketing, right? Then we're looking at your brand reputation, your intellectual property, your operational efficiencies, right? Basically, your operations, and then the industrial trends and any external factors that happen. So those all
Yeah.
together create the evaluation of your company.
And the financials is the proof in the pudding. It's the proof of all of these factors and how well that you're doing in all of those areas, so that when you're going to perhaps sell your company, you'll be able to show them, I have all of these different factors that are able to support the numbers that I'm showing you.
It's a check and balance, right? They all check one another and balance out one another.
Yeah.
So
They're all
they are all intertwined together. And so if you say, hey, this is really good, we can check it off on another side, either in the financials or in marketing, let's say.
exactly.
We can check all that off and see, yes, it is, or no, it's not.
Right. So hopefully that was helpful information for all of you today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Barry or I on our Facebook page or on the Biz Show. We have an Instagram and Facebook for the Biz Show and for InvestQuire.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, you guys have a great day and have fun out there.
Have a great week. See you soon.
Yes, bye.
Bye.